Welcome to Ecommerce Revamped, where we break down the hottest trends, insider tips, and strategies shaping the future of e-commerce. Powered by Miva, the engine behind seamless online stores. Now here's your host, Rob Stanley.
Hey, welcome to another episode of Ecommerce Revamped. I'm your host, Rob Stanley. I've got a good one today. So a lot of people are starting to really shift their brands from this kind of traditional ads to away from traditional ads to something different. And we're going to find out what that's about. So I'm going to bring into the studio Liz Saunders. Let's bring her in. Hey, Liz, how are you doing?
Good. Good morning, Rob.
Good to see you. So that's a big ask. So why are some of these e-commerce brands starting to kind of abandon traditional ads, and what are they shifting to?
Yeah. So I think over the last couple of years, we've seen this shift, right? The one that you are referencing. And the cost of traditional pay-to-play ad space has gotten more and more and more expensive, depending on what platform you're on, where you're driving traffic from and to, all those things. But there's also some new interesting data about user-generated content and that more authentic content and how well it helps drive traffic as well as convert traffic. And so we're seeing a little bit of this shift where people are not throwing the entirety of their budget into driving traffic through all of these pay-to-play, sponsored, those types of traditional ad placements. And they're starting to split some of those budgets into more affiliate created content, more specifically user generated content, which is what tends to have the data backing it for how well it drives traffic and converts traffic. And so there's just kind of this shift. And I would say that user-generated content, there's a lot of places that you can find it, a lot of places you can put it, and we can go more in depth about that. But that is the direction that we are seeing people push. The other thing is it tends to be more cost-effective. And so when people are looking at those really high PPC sponsored spots, they start to think, man, if I could get more for my money by paying somebody to talk about my product in a really authentic, warm way, it feels like a win all around for the customer, for customer acquisition, for the content creator, as well as for the brand.
Yeah, absolutely. And Liz, when it comes to UGC, what are you kind of seeing as far as, some people are going to have less expensive items to more expensive items. Is UGC tend to work better with like less expensive or more expensive, or where's the kind of sweet spot?
So there's a couple placements, and I'm going to split it between if you're on, for example, TikTok and you're scrolling and you have a TikTok shop affiliate talking about a product, that sweet spot tends to be under that $60 mark, right? I was at a conference 2 weeks ago and there were some reps there from TikTok shop talking about kind of they're trying to move that price point up. But at the moment, those $20 to $60 items on TikTok are the ones that kind of do the best, which makes sense, right? We're scrolling, we're discovering products. I do a lot of clothing shopping on TikTok myself, right? So that type of UGC does the best for those products that are in that almost impulse buy, although we've moved up a little bit outside of what I would consider impulse buy budget. Now, there is a program that exists on Amazon, but could be the actual information about this can be utilized wherever your product listing is, right? And so the on-site shoppable videos is what they call them on Amazon, is user-generated content that Amazon lets live in the upper portion of the listing as close to the buying decision as possible. And those tend to do really well for that $80 to $120 mark and up. Now, not indefinitely, because most of us are not buying $3,000 to $5,000 items on Amazon or from even a lot of D2C sites, right? Unless it's a specialty item. But those do better on the product listing because that's where people are starting to consider what they're going to buy, right? So if I'm looking at a bookshelf and it's $220, that's kind of like the range that I'm in. I really want to know, like, from somebody's personal experience, how long did it take somebody to put it together? What does it look like in their space? Are there things that they wish they had known before they spent the $220 on this product? So UGC that you happen upon, I think works best for those impulse buy, maybe a little bit higher. And UGC that shows up close to the point of purchase, I think has its sweet spot with those a little bit higher priced items.
Yeah, and that totally makes sense. Like, and I love the example you gave, because if I was building a shelf, I would like to know, like, how hard was it to build, what kind of things they run into, how long is it going to
Yes.
take me, right?
Yeah,
I mean, that
exactly.
you go and buy it, or you get it off Amazon, and you're just like 3 hours later, you're finally finishing this thing, right? Not knowing
Yeah.
that this was supposed to go this way, Yeah, that's so true. That is so
Yeah.
true.
My favorite
Liz,
is picture only directions now. It's like, and I desperately want to tell you that I read those perfectly, but I don't. So a lot of times when I do those types of videos, I'm like, this is what the directions look like. This is what
right?
you're actually
Yeah.
doing here.
And they're not always that great of a drawing, by the way. When
No,
you're
they're
trying to
not
get detailed,
accurate.
is the screw going this side or that side, or is that not a screw? I mean, yeah, it gets weird. We can go off
Yeah.
on a tangent on that, but anyways, so Liz, I know there's quite a bit of like live selling on Amazon. Is there
Mm.
any other platforms that offer something similar to that?
Yeah, great question. So, TikTok has a ton of live streaming that happens on TikTok. And actually, creators and brands in the back end of like the TikTok shop space, you can work directly with brands. They can send you. It's really interesting, kind of on both sides, because TikTok is doing a really good job of sharing data, of allowing people to connect. So they have a lot of live streaming that happens directly on the TikTok platform. And people do it in multiple ways, right? So some people work with a brand, some people just have like what they have around their house. All products obviously that are within TikTok shop. But then they also have like sponsored, like if a brand has all fitness equipment and they can send the influencer like 6 or 8 products, they can do that. So there's a bunch of different ways to do it on TikTok, and then buy obviously within the TikTok shop ecosystem. Amazon Live also has a lot of streaming. Interestingly, I think one of the things that TikTok has unlocked for D2C brands specifically, although there are a lot of Amazon sellers who are also on TikTok shop, is this discoverability and being able to purchase inside the same experience. And that's something that I don't think Amazon has yet unlocked. They have all of the tech, they have studios, they are really working hard to kind of like figure this out. But there was this kind of critical moment. I want to say it was like a year, it might have been 2 years ago now, but Amazon Live, if I as a content creator would do a live stream about your product, while I was live, and for the next 24 hours, my live video was eligible to be on the product listing, which in the Amazon ecosystem is where we know it converts the best, right? But they took that placement away. And so the Amazon live stream depends currently a lot on the content creator driving their own traffic from another platform to actually Amazon. And so I think that's one of those things that like over time they'll figure it out. But right now the live streams, just anecdotally from speaking to a lot of content creators all the time, the live streams that I see that are doing the best currently are over on TikTok.
Yeah, and that kind of makes sense. But so I kind of, as you were saying that, I kind of had this question. I'm sure others probably have the same question. When it comes to UGC or even some of these live product, what categories of products are you seeing that work best and which ones don't work?
Great question. So I'll talk about kind of the two platforms again. So like on Amazon, they have a lot of filters. Both platforms have a lot of filters. All the platforms have a lot of filters, but specifically getting content approved on Amazon around supplements and those types of products is more difficult. Probably rightfully so, right? We don't want people making silly claims that they can't back up and that, like you'll lose 10 pounds in the next 2 days, right? Like we don't want that type of stuff. So on Amazon, I think you see that, again, kind of more when people are driving their own traffic, it's whatever niche they're in. So if they're a pet content creator, their content does the best if they're talking about pet products. Now, over on TikTok, and this will surprise nobody, the categories that convert the best, just looking through some of the most recent videos that are sitting at the top of most views, most GMV, all of those stats are actually supplements, health and wellness stuff, clothing, makeup. And this kind of goes back to a combination of what we were talking about before, which is the price point and the things that people want to see, right? So it falls in that not quite impulse buy, but $20 to $60. I'm going to buy a shirt on TikTok today, right? But it's something that I want to see on somebody. So while it's not a bookshelf anymore, it is something that it's valuable to me to hear somebody talk directly about their experience. So for me, a lot of times, clothing, obviously we've talked about that, but skincare too, right? I want to know when you buy a $70 set of skin products, moisturizer and everything else, I want to see somebody who's also using it and can tell me what it feels like, what it smells like, those sorts of things. So on TikTok, creators tend to be niched, but maybe it doesn't feel like they have to be quite as tightly niched. Whereas on Amazon, if they're driving traffic, that content live stream tends to do better in their actual niche where they're driving their audience from.
Yeah, I love the example you gave. It brings me back to the old days of walking through department stores where you could try on a perfume or a cologne or whatever it was, right? Back in the day. And so you got an immediate I get it. This is what it smells like. This it feels like. This is what it is.
Yeah.
And we just, malls are going away. Things changing drastically, obviously, which is fine.
Yeah.
It's just a whole different era. But you brought up a good point there. It's I think I would want to do the same thing. I mean, I know my daughters do that. They buy stuff off of TikTok. They buy based off of what they see and what somebody tells them about it, what the quality of it is, maybe even the backstory of it. A lot of stories are very important.
Yep.
Listen, we're not here to bash on traditional ads.
No.
And in fact, bringing that up, what we're going to do is I'm going to take a quick commercial break, but when we come back, I'm going to have Liz talk a little bit about some of the traditional advertising that is still working and that you could still take advantage of, besides the whole UGC thing and everything. So we're going to do that right after this commercial break.
Ready to revamp your online store? Miva's e-commerce platform offers powerful tools and flexible solutions that grow with your business. From design to checkout, Miva has you covered. Don't just sell, stand out. Check out miva.com/podcast to start building your dream store today.
So head on over to miva.com/podcast. We have a lot of cool downloadables for free, ebooks, my ebooks over there. Actually, I made give you a bunch of ways of how to drive external traffic to your website. So head on over to miva.com/podcast. And I have Liz Saunders on from Fluencer Fruit /Wayward. We'll talk about that a little bit later. And we're talking about why e-commerce brands are banning traditional ads. But just before the break, I did want to say that we aren't bashing traditional ads. And in fact, we're going to ask Liz on what traditional ads are still valuable. Go ahead, Liz.
Absolutely. So when we talk about traditional ads, I think there is kind of a nuance here that we want to mention, which is most platforms, to be successful in any sort of product sales, you're going to have some type of traditional formatting around pay to play. So whether that's Google ads or PPC on Amazon or whatever that looks like. So when we're talking about abandoning that. That's not what we're talking about, right? We're talking about that really salesy format that we kind of grew up on, right? Like where it was brand, it was produced strictly by the brand, where they were trying to tell you things that you're like, well, you're the brand though. Is that actually, or is that your opinion, or is that everybody's opinion, right? And so where I think we're seeing the most success in this, like, I'm going to say traditional how we send traffic to our product, is when we're combining those things, right? So we still have to pay for Google ads. We still have to pay for PPC or sponsored ad or sponsored brand placement on Amazon. But you can do that by utilizing this UGC as the actual content. So you can still pay for that driving traffic, but you can buy user generated content to utilize in those ads. And I think that's where we're seeing the current like blend that's working really well for people, because the data behind user generated content is that it builds trust. It has better engagement rates. When you're looking at stuff that's showing up on the product listing, it drives better conversion rates for that product, which then, of course, increases sales. And if you're playing in an ecosystem like Amazon, that kicks that flywheel, right? So you've got increased conversion rate, higher sales, which helps your organic keyword ranking, which brings more people at the higher conversion rate, right? So you've got this whole loop. So when you're combining it, the knowledge of what we know about UGC with all of that knowledge that you know about how to run effective ad campaigns, you're just adding new types of content into the system that you've got built. And we're seeing people start to have those results that are like, oh, got it. Like, I can still run these campaigns. I still have to pay to play on most of the platforms. When you take that and you add it to, and I can also work with content creators in a direct fashion, in a way where they're also driving traffic, it starts to like bring some of that cost down and shift part of it. But the money that you're spending on affiliates driving traffic or content creators driving traffic tends to be more effective than if you were only doing a traditional ad campaign with solely brand produced content within that campaign.
I love that answer. And that's so that's so true, because it so many people do traditional advertising, so the cost of it is so high.
Yeah.
And then you could do an influencer or a UGC type stuff to offset that cost and bring down your overall cost to convert, basically. And that's a great answer. One thing I do want to bring up, Liz, and this is something that's happening quite a bit, and it's nothing new. But when it comes to ad blockers, when it comes to traditional advertising, and people are starting to run a lot of ad blockers, how is that affecting people? And obviously it doesn't affect UGC, but
Right.
how's that affecting traditional ads?
That's a great question. I think because I spend my life working with content creators in the UGC space, like for us, it impacts us none. And from an advertiser's perspective, selfishly, I hope that it's driving them to us, right? Because this is where I spend my time. But you have to think like that if ad blockers are, I have them on, right? Like, I hate pop-ups. We all do. And if that's the case, that the more organic your placement, the better the chances of people actually seeing, engaging, trusting, and then buying your product, right? So I think like when you think about from a traditional marketing, all of the things we learned in business school years and years ago, right? It's like, does it take like 14 times of somebody actually seeing your brand, your product, before they start to consciously be like, oh yeah, that bookshelf, or, whatever the product is. When we think about like pop-up ads, the thing that occurs to me is like people were probably never buying from pop-ups, right? Like that's probably not the point of conversion. but there is still brand awareness around that. And so when you start thinking about like, okay, people are no longer seeing me 14 times, including these pop-ups or that and this, that, and the other, then thinking through how you can incorporate more content creators so that people are seeing you more organically in different locations. So I think one of my absolute favorite examples for this type of like, how can I incorporate more content creators so that people are for brand awareness, is a clothing company. And I heard their founder talking about their strategy for working on UGC with, I think they were working with creators on Instagram at the time. And she was like, look, I'm not going to go spend $100,000 on an influencer with 2 million followers. She was like, because that's not going to hit for my brand. She was like, maybe there are some people in there with kids in the sizes that we sell. She was like, but we're not American Eagle, right? Like, they already have brand awareness. If a huge creator talks about them, it's a possibility that that will convert for them. She was like, but we're working on brand awareness while simultaneously trying to build sales. She was like, so what we've done is we've taken 2 or 3 creators who we really like their content. They have kids in the right age range. She was like, we just reached out to them, put them on a retainer, and send them every piece of clothing that we produce. And she was like, the thing about this is now I'm always in front of people. She was like, and while we're contracted for X number of posts every month with this creator, more than that, like this audience that follows this mom is seeing our clothes all the time. And she is just organically talking about us all the time because her kids have every piece of clothing. And so I think when you think about like, look, pop-ups are going away, that brand awareness with people seeing you is kind of like dissipating. There are these other opportunities are taking place of that, which really, like, nobody loves pop-ups. We all hate, like, even when we're coding them, right? As marketers, we're like, necessary evils. Don't forget to join the email list, or, don't forget to like sign up so you get a coupon. Like, we all know that they convert and that people sign up for them, but that they're not people's favorites. But if you on a product side are having to deal with like less visibility there are ways that you can work with creators that are very organic and feel very natural and probably do a lot more for building brand awareness with really good trust and authenticity.
Yeah, I'm going to be a pop-up. Be sure to like and subscribe our channel.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
just kidding.
While we're on this.
We're on this subject.
Yeah.
No, it's so funny because you actually came right into the next question I was going to talk about. And that was, about finding the right influencer. Why don't you tell everybody a little bit about how they find, you gave a great example of somebody actually finding a great influencer for them.
Yep.
But people tend to just be drawn to the 100 million people following this person. I'm going to give them my product. That's not necessarily the right way, but why don't you tell everybody a little bit about like finding the right influencer and how important is that?
Absolutely. So it's interesting because this feels like it's been a little bit of my soapbox for the last couple years, and at a couple industry events just recently. I was at Prosper, which is the big e-com event in Vegas in March every year. I did Pet Summit a couple weeks ago in Orlando, and then Martech Records event, which was really cool out in LA. And I just maybe haven't heard other people talking about this, so it's like really warms my heart. But I think people are starting to really understand, like, the people with millions of followers have built the audience and can do amazing things. For our average brands, right? You and I are working with, 6 to 8 figure brands. Those are not the creators that are going to be a cost-effective investment for these brands, usually, right? I'm sure there are some outliers, but for the most part, one of my biggest things that I hope that the audience takes away from this is the amount of time that you spend vetting and finding the right content creator to work with is going to pay off in spades moving forward. And what I mean by that is, listen, we're in an age of AI, platforms, automations, all those things. And I genuinely in my heart am a girl of efficiency. So I understand the desire to be able to send an email, work with 100 creators who love and adore your brand. I understand that. However, the best return on investment for you is going to be if you pick content creators who really resonate with your brand and have a warm audience. Now, I'm not going to tell you it needs to be 10,000 followers or it needs to be 50,000 followers or 500 followers, honestly, because a lot of this is going to be you, brand developer, your team, somebody who just knows a lot about your brand, your vibe, about your customer base, doing a little bit of manual work. You can use the platforms to search and find, but I'm going to encourage you, even using platforms, that you not do bulk outreach. It is effective if you want, different types of creator relationships, but for the ones that are the most productive, I'm going to encourage you to follow them, engage with them, get to know the creator, either as your brand on social media or personally on social media, right? Are they in their comments? Are they responding to people? How are they speaking to people? And is that a way that you would speak to your customers? And then engaging with the creators on their platforms where they're at, you build that a little bit of, I don't want to say relationship, but a little bit of a relationship, right? Where it's like, oh, they know. The added benefit for you is when you send them a message or when you send them an email, they already genuinely know a little bit about you. Content creators get hundreds of messages every day with dear handle from Instagram. Dear, possibly my name, dear, I love your content, right? Like we get a lot of basically anonymous automated outreach, right? So your goal is to have a little bit of they know it's you and that you're a human when you actually do that outreach. So make sure that the way they speak to see if there's already content creators talking about your products. The ones who bought and love your stuff already are going to be your best first shot. If you don't, you're launching, you don't have anybody currently talking about you, see who's talking about your competitors, right? And go talk to them and see if they would be interested in trying your product. And if you can't find anybody on like TikTok, Instagram that's already talking, if you go to Amazon and you look through on product listings underneath the Amazon influencers, it says earns commission. You can go to their storefront, go look there and see if there's somebody in your niche talking about you or a competitor that you can reach out to as well.
Love that. Love that. You just helped everybody who's either already established brand or getting ready to get started as a brand on ways to find influencers. And I absolutely love that. That is great information and definitely valuable. Please take action on these things because Liz is taking her time to really just give you guys all this information. So what I want to do is help Liz out a little bit here. And some of you may or may not be familiar with Fluencer Fruit. And I would love for Liz to give a little background on what Fluencer Fruit is and how she's trying to starting to transition into a company, Wayward. And tell us about what's been going on, Liz.
Absolutely. So my background is Amazon seller side of things. And so I 2 years ago started a company called Fluencer, working with Amazon influencers, which is very specifically content creators who are allowed to create this UGC that lives on product listings specifically. And then almost 2 months ago now, my company, Fluencer Fruit, was acquired by a company named Wayward. And so while Fluencer Fruit's focus has been very much on that on-site shoppable content, Wayward's focus is in that off-site affiliate tech platform space. So they are driving traffic to products. I am helping convert traffic once it gets there. So now we have this very holistic offering between kind of like the two parts that are now existing together.
That's great. And super glad too, because a great company, way to bring it both together, right? And just have kind of everything available.
Yep.
So Liz, if people are interested in reaching out to you, they want to get a hold of you, they want to know a little bit more about Fluencer Fruit or Wayward, where do they go?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've got a landing page set up for you guys, and it is just fluencerfruit.com/wayward, where you can see how to sign up as a brand, if you want to work with our content creators. And then my email address is just liz@wayward.com. So I am such a nerd, but I love talking about all of this stuff so much. Like if you, as a listener, if you're like, I just have one more question for her, you just feel free to shoot me an email. I'll be happy to get back to you.
That's awesome. So yeah, those are listening. It's Fluencer Fruit. Just like if you put influencer fruit and take out the I in front of it, fluencerfruit.com/wayward. You can head on over there, and then it's liz@wayward.com for those who are listening. Liz, always great having you on.
Yeah.
Always great content. Gosh, people could take advantage of this, and I hope they do, because this is absolutely what everybody needs. I get asked all the time, like, how do I find these influencers? How do I, go about getting somebody to help me promote my product? And this is it. This is why I wanted Liz on. So hopefully y'all took notes, or back up the video or back up the audio if you're listening, and listen again, or just reach out to Liz, because Liz has great, if we didn't cover something that maybe you were just like, oh, I have that question, please feel free to reach out to Liz. Liz, thank you so much for being on the podcast. Always appreciate you coming on. Always great to see you again.
Yes.
And good luck with the new position. And everybody who's listening, be sure to tune in to the next episode.
Thanks for tuning in to E-Commerce Revamped. Ready to take your e-commerce business to the next level? Visit Miva.com for the tools to build seamless online stores and unforgettable customer experiences. Until next time, keep your carts full and your customers